Hi guys, so I have to do a video review for these since you all said that you wanted me to review the text that I normally use. So hi, I am the person behind Broom Closet Briefing. Can't tell you my real name because the reason why I write the whole thing on a pseudonym is to hide my identity. But hey, you can hear my voice, so that's there. So I am going to review today the deck that is, I've been really fascinated and using it for a lot of the readings that I've posted or do in person. Is called the Bonfire Tarot, and I think she did publish it as an indie deck first, but I actually didn't know about this deck for the whole time actually. This is a second edition, that's what I got, and it's commercially published by the publishers called the Red Feather, I think Red Feather. So this is available to purchase. I think it's on Amazon, but I got it from like a store that I go to. So let's look at some of the pictures and I can talk about what I really like about this and how I recommend you use this deck. So for starters, I think the first edition that she did publish, that had a black border, which I read some of the reviews on Amazon where people were saying that a border on the second edition would have been nice because there's a lot going on in this card and the border would have been good to contain all the things that are going on. I am somebody who hates borders on the tarot decks, so I normally go out of my way to find decks that do not have the border. If I really like the images of those decks, then I eventually buy it and then trim the borders off and even around the corners as well by myself. So I love the fact that it doesn't have a border. So let's talk about this deck and the images that she did. So I think she did it like I think she did it in the tattoo art form. So most of the images, the concept is based on Rider-Waite, but you see that there's a lot going on in all of these images. Like these are so beautiful, little symbolism that adds a lot more layers, and I feel like that is something that I really look forward to in any tarot decks that I use or that I buy, or that sometimes you may have like a question that you want, like okay, I want to look at something that is really straightforward, use the Rider-Waite-Smith system, or you use something that is very closely based on Rider-Waite-Smith and not a lot of elements that are going on. But lately I have seen myself reaching out for decks that are a lot more layers to peel. Look at the Nine of Swords. This is like so cool. Her blanket is, instead of the traditional blanket in the Rider-Waite-Smith system where it shows like a traditional quilt on her blanket, this is like a chessboard, and then all of these chess pieces here that are like haunting her because she's kind of like overworked in her brain and like anxious about this whole thing. So I think this really very nicely captures the idea and even adds her own twist. I think this one, I want to say that this is one of my favorite Four of Swords card that I've seen, because Four of Swords is my least favorite card in the system. I feel like in Rider-Waite-Smith deck, the Four of Swords is kind of like a bland image, but in this one, this is so cool. Like she's in a bathtub, she's relaxing and everything, and I see all the things that are going on in her head. So this adds so much extra layer, and all of these little things that she had added, like there's one shoe and the other shoe is not there. So this adds like a lot of more like layers to peel. The Ten of Swords, I love the fact that she added all of these birds on the back, you know, the predatory birds, so waiting for this man to die, and then the grim reality of that is gonna take place. So I do think that whenever an artist makes a departure here and there, and in some decks, they will have a completely different interpretation of the traditional image, which is like very different. And I have had some of those decks that are very different from what the traditional image is. And that also like would add a different kind of layer to the meaning, so to enhance my learning about these cards, because yes, you learn the Rider-Waite system and then that's a starting point, but I feel like eventually you grow as a tarot reader on like forming more layered deep meanings on each of the card system. Like also I really like the idea that she added not only just her own interpretation and stuff like that, but there's a lot of inclusivity in all the images that she has drawn. There's like people from all walks of life. I feel like that has been, even though the art is kind of a different, like the tattoo art, but she did have this inclusivity, which I really, really love. So that is something that tells you about that artist, and it really lifts my spirit when I see that. And yes, you would be including the departure the artists made in your... I think I have seen both ways. Like I've seen tarot readers who just could be using the deck that has a lot more symbolism going on, but then they stick to the traditional meaning when they're interpreting the results. And I was one of those readers for a very long time. But last few years, I have seen that I've evolved as a reader to go push the envelope and go out of my comfort zone and, you know, break the box in which I was kind of like holding myself as a reader, and let go myself of interpreting and including the bendings that artist has made. And I feel like that has enhanced my reading capabilities to a different level. And I really would recommend, if you are wanting to grow as a reader, I think you should do that too. And that will add a lot more layer to your reading, because like I also read Lenormand, like you guys see in my you know, readings. I sometimes post Lenormand interpretations, and Lenormand really doesn't care on what the artist has made in departure, because it's a system that doesn't rely on the artist's interpretation. It's like a pictograph. Every card would mean the same whether or not you have drawn it in a different form. But that's when I had like made the distinction of like reading tarot versus reading Lenormand, because tarot, yes, you should learn the traditional system to learn the basic meanings, but tarot is really supposed to be you know, like firing your neurons to come up with your own story from your subconscious when you see the image. So I feel like when I'm intuitively guided to use a certain deck for a certain reading, and I am supposed to be intuitively, I should know that I should be using the additional symbolism that artist has put in, because I'm meant to see it. That is the divine intervention that I think is the part. So for this deck, as much as this deck is concerned, if you're a very new reader, I probably wouldn't recommend using a deck like this that has so much going on. I know there is one deck that was very famous when I started reading tarot. I think it's called the Paulina Tarot. I think it's by that artist. She has a very whimsical, like a drawing, like a artistry. And I found that really hard to read with. I never ended up buying that deck, because although I'm kind of drawn to whimsical art, but I never ended up buying that because it looked so busy, and I was like really it would scare me off of like even, you know, trying to read with it. So but like that is what I'm saying, that I have evolved as a reader, that I am now pushing the boundaries to go and actually use decks that are like, which has a lot going on. So Eight of Wands is one of my favorite minor cards, and I really, if you ask me, there are certain things that make or break for me whether or not I'm going to buy that deck or whether or not I'm going to use it long term. First, it shouldn't have any borders, and second is I look at some of the cards that are my favorite. Like Eight of Wands is my favorite card, and then in the majors, High Priestess is one of my favorite cards. So I look at that, and if I like those images, I think I know that I'm probably going to end up using it a lot. So Eight of Wands, in my mundane sense, I know that it means a letter of some sort, a message, a letter, like a speedy letter coming, a message coming. I love that she added this here. So that's why this deck is like this is like chef's kiss for me, because I think I have like found something that really kind of tells me that I'm gonna be using it a lot. So this is some of the quirky part of like using a certain deck or liking a certain deck that is a make or break for me. I'm pretty sure every tarot reader has some of that quirks. Mine is that. And also I do feel like tarot is such a personal thing, you know. Like every person, every tarot reader will have a little bit of something that really fires them about the deck that they're using. So and the artist interpretation that adds that additional layer, I feel like it's so important that we take this into account. So yeah, so if you are a seasoned reader and you want to like you know, push yourself further to actually make your reading more layered, I think this deck is a really nice one to do that. I actually love this, and I've been using it a lot lately for my political readings. And this deck is available to purchase on Amazon, and if you are not an Amazon person for whatever reason, then you can find it elsewhere as well. This is commercially available, and I hope this video review was helpful, and I'm gonna do more because I have a lot more decks that nobody knows about, or they don't know about. I've found that a lot of those decks that I used, people had told me like, oh, where do you find these decks? And I'm like, it's kind of strange that I find these and nobody knows about these ones. So I will actually reveal which ones I use a lot, and some of them that are like my second favorites, and then reach out for them so much. And then I can also share some of the decks that I do not use, and I'll share why I don't use them, and maybe I can get rid of them because if either I've trimmed their borders or I have like used it a lot that they're pretty beat up. So yeah, there I will probably try to post one review a week for people to like see what I'm using mostly for my reading. So I hope this was helpful. This is Broom Closet Briefing, and this is a absolutely reader supported publication on Substack. Make sure to subscribe if you want to stay on board with all the things I have to share. All right, and I'll see you in the next review video.